first of all, I want to welcome everyone to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. My name is Jerry Shockey. I oversee all the educational programs here at our museum, and pleased that you guys could join us for this special program that we just launched, just a couple weeks ago, titled Heart of a Hall of Famer. And what we mean by that, really, if you think about our Hall of Famers, most of it can be said that if they didn't achieve greatness in football, they would have probably achieved greatness in something else. Football just happened to be their God-given ability. And many of them, we could say, are successful off the field. We've got one that's a Minnesota Supreme Court justice, one that was a U.S. congressman, several that own businesses, several that are high-ranking executives for various companies and organizations, some that are TV personalities that you see regularly, like Howie Long and John Madden. So there's a lot of individuals that have achieved both on and off the field. But as I said, at the core of that is their character, their ability to persevere, their courage, their determination, their dedication. And those aren't just character qualities that pertain to being a great football player, but a great person. And that's what the focus of today's program is to kind of look at what it took to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame beyond just the athletic ability. And we have a great example today of someone who's achieved not only on the field, but off the field as well, as you'll see some of the things that I'll read here in just a moment from his bio of some of the amazing credentials that our guest speaker has here today. With that being said, I would like to recognize the schools that are participating here today. First of all, tuning in shortly again will be John Muir Middle School in California. We have Hightower High School in Texas. We have Geneseo Central School in New York. We have Angville School in California, Cinnamon School in California, and then hopefully joining in here shortly will be Mountain Gap Middle School in Alabama. So we want to thank you guys. We want to thank your teachers, your tech coordinators, all the people that are involved to make this broadcast a success. We want to give a special shout out and thanks to the folks at Kings County Office of Education, Janet Adams and the rest of her staff. They have traveled all the way down from Kings County down the coast to San Diego, right down the street pretty much from Mike Haynes' home, so they could do this broadcast. So make sure you guys that are tuning in, make sure you go check out, just do a Google search under King County Office of Education. Go to their homepage, go on the left-hand side. They have great content that they offer. So make sure you guys go check that out. But thank you, Janet, and the rest of your group. Ed, I'm sorry I didn't mention your name. And his lovely wife, Vicki, who I think might be joining there as well. So appreciate you guys for all your hard work and your efforts. Thank you. I want to go ahead and introduce our featured speaker, who is obviously a Hall of Famer. And I'm going to, most of you, hopefully all of you, have read a little bit about his bio and some of the materials that we sent. But I'm going to pick out some things that kind of stand out to me, if you will, about his career both on and off the field. First of all, Mike Haynes, who is our featured speaker here today, was the Patriots' #1 draft pick. He was the first defensive back selected overall in 1976. He had a sensational rookie season with 8 interceptions, AFC high 608 punt return yards. His career stats included 46 interceptions for 688 yards. He had 2 TDs, 112 punt returns for over 1,000 yards, and the statistics go on and on. He started and intercepted a pass in Super Bowl 28. Excuse me, I keep misreading that. I got to learn my Roman numerals. Super Bowl 18. I think I said 28 last time as well. I got to learn my Roman numerals here. Selected to 9 Pro Bowls, All-Pro 4 times, and probably one of the, aside from being inducted in the Hall of Fame, one of the most distinguished statistics in his career is he was selected to the NFL's 75th anniversary team. So, and that's not just the yearly team, that's not the all-decade team, that's the 75th anniversary. And by many will argue that he might be the greatest cornerback that has ever played in the National Football League. So if you think about the greats that are in the NFL today, they're aspiring to be a Mike Haynes throughout their career. But not only that did he have a distinguished career on the field, but he also had one off the field and continues to as well. Formerly, he was a vice president at Callaway Golf. He worked his way up as a vice president. Then he switched back into the NFL again and went on to become the vice president of player development. He's a father of 6, and he is now a national spokesperson for the American Urology Association, and we'll get back to that here in just a moment. So let me go ahead and play a video for you guys, and so you can see a little bit about Mike Haynes on the field.
Defensive back Mike Haynes played the game of football with unmeasurable quickness and precision. Opponents stood almost no chance against Haynes' suffocating one-on-one coverage. Mike Haynes didn't play the game with a lot of swagger. He just let his ability speak for itself.
And join me in giving a round of applause to our featured speaker here today from the class of 1997, Hall of Famer Mike Haynes.
Hey, y'all can clap.
Thank you.
So, Mike,
Thank you, everybody.
no
I'm glad
pun
to be here
intended,
with
the mic is yours.
Well, I'm excited to be here with you all, and can't wait to hear some of your questions. We just had a session a little earlier than this, about an hour ago, and that was my first time ever doing or participating in one of these webcasts. And I love it because I'm here in San Diego, and you are wherever you are, and we can have an open discussion like this. And so the thing I want you to remember is that this is your time, this is your session, and it's going to be what you make it. So, you know, hopefully I'll do a good job of asking questions, and you'll do a good job, answering your questions, and you'll do a good job of asking the questions that you really want to know the answer to. So let's enjoy it. Let's get started.
Okay, well, I don't know if John Muir got connected yet. John Muir, are you there?
Nope, not yet. Cameras will come
Okay,
on.
well, they'll be connected here shortly. We'll get back to them. We're going to go through how we're going to do this is we're going to ask all the groups to keep their mics muted. I will call upon you, go through a first round. It'll be in the order of John Muir, Hightower, Geneseo, Angvo, Cinnamon, and Mountain Gap. Hopefully they did get connected. We'll go in that order. We'll allow each group to ask 2 questions, and the second time around we'll go through 1, and we'll try to get through as many questions as we possibly can here today. But what I encourage you guys to do, hopefully you've taken the time to prepare, and you'll hear this word prepare come up a few times as Mike is talking, as he said it a number of times in the last session. But hopefully you guys had the opportunity to prepare some questions for Mr. Haynes here, because you have the opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I mean, I don't know how many times you're going to say in your life you got to sit down one-on-one with one of the greatest football players ever to ask whatever questions you have of him. But this is an opportunity to learn what kind of character qualities it took him to achieve on and off the field. So I encourage you to take this time to ask some very thought-provoking questions. Mike's open to pretty much any question. We'll say that, but let's go ahead and get things started. So I know John Muir is not there right now, but let's go ahead to Hightower. Corlette, do your students have some questions there in Texas?
Yes, we have a question.
What college did you go to?
I went to Arizona State. It's in Tempe, Arizona, and it was they're in the Pac-10. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but when I played football in college, we played in 3 Fiesta Bowls. My senior year, we were undefeated. Should have been number 1. It didn't work out that way. They gave it to Oklahoma, but I had a great college experience. Good question. Thank you.
And I think the folks in Texas, that's Big 12 territory in Texas. Let's go ahead and do another one there. Texas?
We have another question.
Okay.
What quarterback today you think played most like you?
That's a good question. I guess there's probably quite a few. Let's see, Champ Bailey. Is it Donald Reeves? Did I say his name right? It's a cornerback in. Are you an NFL fan? So if I mention the team, could you name the player? Just shake your head. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. The guy on the end, I can see you clearly. There's the Jets. The Jets have a cornerback who's a young guy who's coming on. He had a great year last year. They just got another defensive back from the Chargers, who I thought is a super talented guy. and you guys will like him. But there's some other guys that have been good. Champ Bailey, the Raiders cornerback. What's his name, Raider fan?
You know, you put me on the
Asamoah.
spot. Nnamdi Asamoah.
Nnamdi Asamoah. Have you heard of him? Just shake your head, yes. So, well, I'm glad you actually asked that question. Here's why. I haven't played football since 1990, okay? The likelihood that you guys will know me is probably not likely. And, Deion Sanders, you guys will probably know him. He's not in the Hall of Fame yet, but he probably will be. He's one of the great guys that's played this position. One of the things that we all have in common as football players is we can't play forever, and it's impossible for people to always know who we are or know about our reputation. So the only way I get the kudos that I'm receiving from you guys today is Mr. Shockey read them off to you. You got a chance to see a little bit of a highlight of me playing. But you guys, I retired before a lot of you guys were even born. Well, before all of you guys were born. So I'm just excited to be here, and I know exactly how you're feeling about me sitting here, since you never got a chance to watch me play.
Okay, thank you, Hightower. Let's go to the folks in New York. John Holt, we got a couple questions from your students.
Hi, I'm John Holt from Geneseo and
And John,
I didn't hear the question.
If you can get the mic a little closer, that we're having problems hearing those. Had trouble hearing that. We do have a close-up of the gentleman with the spiked hair right there. Looks good.
Hi, I'm Brittany, and I'm wondering, how do you get into the Hall of Fame?
That's a good question, actually. Thank you. After you've finished playing, after 5 years of being out of the league, is the earliest you can be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Yes, thank you. I saw her. Every NFL city where there was an NFL team, they have reporters, and those reporters, they're the ones that vote. The fans, we're trying to actually, we started this campaign, we want the fans to have a vote, so the fans can get involved in it and have a say-so over who gets in the Hall of Fame. Even the Hall of Famers, even I, as a Hall of Fame player, don't really have a vote. I can't say, I'm going to vote that guy into the Hall of Fame. It's really a lot of sports reporters that follow football. They have the vote. And so the day before, if you follow, and this might be a good idea for you to follow it this year, they'll have an announcement of all the guys who are candidates for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And they keep getting eliminated as they get closer to the Super Bowl. And the day before the Super Bowl, they will announce the new Hall of Fame inductees. It's a pretty complicated process, and it's pretty involved. These reporters actually have to stand up and talk about different players that they want to vote in, and all of them get to weigh in on the analysis of this, and then they vote. And if you get enough votes, you go in. If you don't, then hopefully someone will bring your name up again the following year, and it's just a continuing process until you finally get in. If you don't get in after a certain amount of time, they have what they call an old-timers list. And so you go off this list of being a guy who could be voted on every year into this other category, and then your name kind of comes up at other periods in time. Jerry Shockey, the guy who introduced me, who works at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, is probably a better guy to answer that question than me, but I think I gave it a little justice, didn't I, Jerry?
You did a wonderful job. You should work here.
Okay. All right, thanks. Okay.
Let's
Do you have
go
any
to
other
another
questions?
Mr. Haynes, what other sports did you play growing up?
Well, I played starting with baseball. I think baseball was probably my #1 sport as a kid growing up. It was my love. I played almost, seems like every Sunday with, in the parks. Basically, I was a city kid in Los Angeles. And I also ran track and played basketball. And I started playing organized football when I started high school in the 10th grade. My mom was a a little bit afraid of me playing football, afraid I'd get hurt. And football today is a lot safer than it was back when I was a kid. You know, the helmets are better now, the equipment is better, the rules are different. It was a little bit, it could be a little bit crazy to play football back then, but now it's a great, you know, it's great for everybody.
Okay, thank you, Geneseo, and let's go to Anglo in California, part of Kings County there.
Oh, one of Kings County schools.
The Roadrunners.
Roadrunners.
When did you know football was your passion?
That's a very good question. I think that all sports were probably my passion when I was a kid. I just liked playing with my dad and other kids in my neighborhood. You know, we get together and play, you know, football. We race race up and down the street, just trying to see who was the fastest kid in the neighborhood and things like that. So I think all sports were my passion, but at some point you don't get to play them all. You have to pick one. And for me, I guess I got selected to play in an all-star game when I was in high school. And in that all-star game, all these colleges got a chance to see me play. And my baseball dropped right off the list. Football and track came up on the list. And so I basically became a football player who ran track to stay in shape, but also excelled on the track as well. Thank you for that question.
Go ahead with the next question there in Anglo.
What was your favorite football team growing up?
I'm from Los Angeles, and so as a kid growing up, my favorite team was the Los Angeles Rams. You know, I was very fortunate, you know, growing up in Los Angeles, where you have USC, UCLA, who were, you know, big rivalries, and the Rams. They were all three right there in the city, and I got the chance to watch them all play. They had a lot of great players on those Ram teams, and as a kid, I could go to those games for free. All I had to do was put on my Cub Scout uniform, and they let me in for free. So I went to a lot of games when I was a kid.
Okay, thank you, Anglo. Let's go to another Kings County group, Cinnamon. That's what I had on my toast this morning.
Okay, good morning. We're having some trouble with our visual, but we're going to go ahead and ask our questions anyways. The first one up is from Roger.
What was your GPA in high school and college?
Oh, Roger, you'd have to ask me that. Is this the Eagles?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, you would have to ask me that. My GPA in high school was not very good. I didn't even know much about a GPA. Matter of fact, the first time anyone ever even asked me about my GPA was in that all-star game that I played in. Because people were asking, hey, what college are you going to go to? And I said, I don't know. And they said, well, what's your GPA? And I said, I don't know. And they said, well, did you graduate in the upper half of your graduating class? I said, I'm sure I did. But I didn't know the answer to any of those questions. I hadn't taken the SAT test. And so I was one of these kids that kind of got lucky, really kind of got lucky. My GPA, as it turns out, was 2.4 in high school. All right, not very good. I mean, that's actually terrible, terrible, terrible. Okay, but here's the thing. It was 2.4, but I wasn't trying. School, my education wasn't as important as it became later in life. My parents, I didn't grow up with my parents saying to me, son, I want you to go to college and get a great education. I grew up with my parents saying, son, I can't wait till you graduate from high school and you can get out of this house and you can go get a job and get on your own. So for me, my goal was to get a high school diploma and move on. But because I was able to play in this all-star game, other people outside of my family started to come into my life and encouraging me to learn and do different things. So that all-star game, I found out at my GPA, found out I was in the lower half of my graduating class. I hadn't taken the SAT. So over time, all these schools who had an interest in me all dropped off. They didn't have an interest in me anymore as soon as they found out I didn't have any of those things. And so Arizona State, the school I eventually went to, they said, look, why don't you take the SAT and maybe you'll score high enough that we can get you in. And I missed the date to take the SAT. So I really, after high school, missed the whole fall semester. And so then I had to take the ACT, which is a different test. And they were so worried about me not being able to get into Arizona State that they had given me a book to study. And that was probably about the first time that I started studying about school. So if I didn't understand a math question, I could go, ask one of my friends who knew how to do this stuff. I didn't have great grammar, and so if I had any grammar issues, I'd go find one of my friends that was, pretty good student, and they helped me with that. When I took the ACT, I scored a score so high that I could have gone to Stanford, I could have gone to Cal Berkeley, I could have gone to some of the great schools here in California, and probably around the country. But it wasn't, when I was your kid's age, I wasn't appreciating my education, unfortunately. So my college GPA was 3.1. I became a dean student in college. And so I started to value education. I knew what education could do as I got older. I understood what it could do more and more. So thank you for that question. I wish I could tell you that I was a 4.0 student and I was a great athlete, but I'm just telling you the truth. I learned the importance of this over time, and I'm hoping that you asking me that question, I can have an influence on people who are watching me today that, if they're sitting in the middle of the road and they're a 2.5 or something like that, if that's all you can do, hey, you're doing great. That wasn't my case. My situation, I wasn't doing the best I could do. I did not study. I didn't use the resources. My teachers would say, Mike, if you're having trouble with that, why don't you stay after school or come early to class and I'll help you. It wasn't important to me. As I look back on it now, is that those resources were there. I just didn't take advantage of them. So if I can encourage one of you guys to go do that, if you're not sure, your education does make a difference.
And I think to add on to what Mike said, that was a great question by you guys. Something that people don't realize is even to make in the National Football League, and this statistic that the department that Mike oversaw with the National Football League that they put out as well, and it's on the NFL Players Association website as well, is that players in the National Football League, players that have completed their 4-year college education, earn 20 to 30% more money, and their careers last 50% longer than those that did not complete their 4-year college education. So those of us that are sitting here watching, if you do have a dream of being an NFL star, even if you are able to be an NFL star, it's going to benefit you to have an education. You're going to make more money and your career is going to last longer. So for those of us that probably won't be an NFL star, which is going to be about just about all of us, that your education is so important. It's so important. And hopefully, as Mike shared with you guys, hopefully you understand that at a younger age than what he did. So let's go to, same group. Cinnamon, you got another one.
Yes, we do. Our next question is from Ryan.
Did you have a backup plan for your life in case football didn't work out?
That's a great question. Yes, I did. That really tags really back into the earlier question about education. When I was drafted in the first round, I was the 5th player drafted overall. I was very fortunate to get drafted to the Patriots, and I had a locker next to a super great player named George Webster, who went to Michigan State. My college coach had a poster in his office of George Webster. It said, under the bottom, it said, George Webster, greatest college athlete of all time. Well, and when I got drafted to the pros, my locker was right next to his. One day, I came in, his locker was cleared out. There was nothing there. And so I asked one of the other guys, hey, what happened to George? And they said, it's over. His career's over. They waived him, which means they cut him or they waived him. He was no longer on the team. And so I said, wow, they waived the greatest college player of all time? There was no press conference. There was no big ceremony. When we went to our meetings later that day, the coach said, Johnson, you move up and practice with the first team. Bills, you go up and you practice with the second team. That was it. And so I said, wow. If they can do that to the greatest college player of all time, they can do that to Mike Haynes. So all those great things that he had done in his life didn't really help him play longer than he wanted to play. That decision of when his career was going to end wasn't even his decision. It was somebody else's decision. And I felt like that could be me. And so that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to get my degree. And I got really serious about my education. Before, when I was in school, I would come to class late. In college, you can do that. You can't do that in your guys' school grade. I'd come to class late and I'd leave early. That was before I was in the National Football League. When I went back to complete my degree, I came to class early. I stayed late to talk to the professor if there was something I didn't understand, because I, for the very first time, started to understand what education could do for me and how important it was, not so much the grade that I got, but what I actually learned, because that's the value, not my grade, but what I learned. And so if I didn't understand something, I would actually stay later and ask the teacher, no matter what the class was. And I think that's when I started to really understand what the opportunity was for me and how I really was in control of my own development. It was my decision. It was up to me to take the extra step to make it happen. So thank you for that question.
Okay, thank you, Cinnamon. Let's go. Hopefully they got connected. Mountain Gap, Alabama, are you guys there? Do you have a couple questions for Mr. Haynes? And maybe they didn't. So, and did John Muir, did you guys get connected? Yes, I heard Jan in the background say yes.
Yes, we're here. We're here, Jerry.
Okay. Go ahead, Kathy. You got a couple questions.
Go ahead. Who has a question?
As a Hall of Famer, as a Hall of Fame player, how does it feel to be in the most prestigious club?
Did you hear that one?
Yes, I did. I'm glad you said club, because that's the way I feel. I feel like I've just joined a team that can never be cut from. That my success will and the things that I achieved that will be in a building forever, where someone can actually go in and read about it and see if they're interested. It is, as a football player, it's the highest goal that you can achieve, to be inducted into the Hall of Fame with the greatest players of all time, and that's never going to change. It's never going to change. It's always going to be the place where the greatest football players and the people that have contributed to this sport will be housed. So as players, as writers, as contributors, it's all in one place, and you can go there anytime you want to see it in Canton, Ohio.
Another question there, Kathy, in California.
Hey, go ahead.
What job would you think you would have if you didn't play football?
Oh, well, that's a good question. I think a teacher, believe it or not. One of the things that I guess I've learned is that you should follow your passions. And, sports was a passion of mine. I think that's why I excelled at athletics. But I like helping other people make better decisions. And I wrestle with why they make the wrong decisions and try to help them, try to come up with different ways to expose them to different ideas or concepts and help them make the right decision. When I was in college, I wanted to be a principal. I never really wanted to be a teacher. It's kind of funny. But I wanted to hire teachers that felt like I did, that weren't going to judge a kid by his past. Like I wouldn't want a kid to be in my school where the teachers were judging him by his circumstances at home. And so I would want all the teachers working with each one of the students in that school to be the best that they could possibly be, to help them set goals, to help them understand the importance of education, and to try and encourage them to put forth that same effort that they put other places in education, because that is really what's going to take them different places. I didn't get a chance to finish my degree in education because unfortunately I felt that I could not be the first person in my family to go to college and only make $12,000 a year. I don't know what teachers make now. I hope they make a lot more than that. But when I was going to school, they weren't making very much. And my mom, who had her own business, she's a beautician, she had her own little beauty shop, probably made $30,000 a year. And I didn't want to be the first kid in my family to go to college and make $12,000. So I switched my major, but I never really gave up on my passion. And so even here today, talking to you guys, I'm actually sharing and teaching and hopefully helping you make better decisions about your futures. And that's what I wanted to do in the first place. I found another way to do it. I'm not a principal, but I'm doing it anyway.
And I think the teachers will probably share my same sentiments and say that I think Mike would be an outstanding teacher in the classroom. And I know those teachers that we have connected here today are those that do have that passion for teaching and would be the type of teachers that you would want in your school as well, Mike. So I understand we did have Mountain Gap. I know Penny Hill and Alabama. I know you guys just got connected. So let's go ahead. If you guys have a couple questions in Alabama, go ahead and fire those away. Then we'll start back with Hightower and work our way through the order again.
What do you think your greatest accomplishment is in your life so far today?
I'd have to say it's my kids. It's not what you probably wanted to hear, but I'm a parent now. And those are the real gems that have come into my life that I get a chance to work with on a consistent basis. I have 6 kids altogether, and that's really it. In sports, I achieved a lot. I really did. And in high school, not so much in high school. I wasn't fortunate enough to go to a great athletic school. I went to an academic school. So even though I didn't try at my school the way I learned to try later, just being in that environment, I learned a lot of stuff. I was very fortunate to be in a good environment. When I got to college, I excelled on the track. I excelled on the football field. I was an All-American. I was on all-conference and all these different things. And I achieved a lot. But I think when I look back on it all, I'm glad I did it. I have no regrets that I did it. But I'm more proud of my kids being successful, that I was a good dad, and that I was there to encourage my son or my daughter when things weren't going great in their lives. And that's probably not what you wanted to hear, but that's my honest answer.
Let's go ahead for another one there.
Okay.
Did you ever get a serious injury?
That's a good question. I actually did have an injury that I consider serious. I think that's probably all up to each person. Somebody could maybe disagree with that, but like a fractured rib, some people call that serious. I guess if I was your age, I'd say it was serious. But I had a collapsed lung, and so that was a serious injury. When I was hospitalized and laying in a hospital bed and not knowing if my lung was going to reinflate, and if it didn't, then they were going to have to operate and cut, go into my chest wall and find another way to get my lung to go up. So that was pretty serious. But it didn't change my love for the game. It didn't really, I still wanted to play. Matter of fact, I played while I was still injured. My lung wasn't even all the way up 100%. I loved the game so much I just wanted to play. But I never broke a leg or broke an arm or anything. For the most part, I was pretty lucky that way.
Thank you, Mountain Gap. Now, we talk about injuries and Mike's ability to persevere through that injury and go on to a Hall of Fame career. We all have to overcome obstacles in our life. We all have to persevere through adversity. We all have to demonstrate courage in certain situations. Mike had a very scary moment in his life a couple years ago that I know he's very passionate about sharing with anyone who wants to listen. He had a bout with that ugly C word, and I'll throw it over to Mike if you can share with them what that ugly C word is.
Well, Jerry, I want to almost argue with you a little bit, because you said we all do it, we all overcome or have to overcome. A lot of people don't. A lot of people will be faced with adversity and they'll just stop right there. They won't take the next step. And it's very difficult sometimes. If you really want to achieve something and you have difficulty doing it, it's really hard to keep trying. And that is something that I like working with young people and my own kids about. You know, they don't really want to take the next step, and I have to try and show them of where they're taking the next step in other areas of their life. They need to take the next step in every area of their life that is important. What Jerry's talking about is a couple of years ago at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, they had a free screening for retired players to go to for prostate cancer. And so I found out at that screening that I have prostate cancer. I had prostate cancer. Now, when most people hear the word cancer, they think terrible things, and I think rightfully so. However, it's something that we need to get more comfortable with. I need to get more comfortable with, and you kids need to get comfortable with it too, because your parents and even yourselves, we're not in a situation in this world where we may not get it. You know, it's going to come in somebody's life, in your friends, your own family. It's going to happen. Prostate cancer is very, very, unfortunately, prevalent in this country with men. 1 out of 6 men are going to get prostate cancer in their lifetime. 1 out of 2.5 African American men. So almost every other African American man is going to get prostate cancer in his lifetime. That's really an epidemic, right? Look around your room, you know. All you guys in your lifetime, you know someone that's going to get prostate cancer, and it could be you. It may already be in your family. Well, that screening saved my life because I took the step. You know, I was very proactive. I at least went to get the screening, and I found out that I had it. And now I'm fine. It's out of my system. I caught it early. And prostate cancer, like breast cancer, are 2 cancers. If you catch them early, there's a higher than a 90% chance that you're going to beat it. But a lot of people don't catch it early. And so I want to encourage you, if your parents are getting close to 40 or are 40, make sure that they're doing the right things so that if they do get it, it's not the end of the world. If they do get it, they catch it early and they can continue to have a nice life. So Jerry, thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about that. It is something I'm passionate about, and we have a campaign that if you want to know more about, you can just go on your website to knowyourstats.org, and you can learn an awful lot about it. Tell your dad, tell your mom to go there. Tell your uncles to go there. Tell your neighbors to go there. It's just a resource that that we put together to try and help people deal with this.
And thank you, Mike, for sharing that. I know since I've had the conversations with Mike about this, I'm in my early 30s. I know once I start, getting past that 35 barrier, it's something that I'm going to have done annually. So I appreciate that advice, Mike. Let's go back to Hightower. One question from you guys. I'll go through one at a time.
Okay, here's our question.
What advice would you give some of the athletes at Hightower in order to be successful in college?
My advice would be to listen to your coaches that you have now, and try to go to as many camps as you can, so other people, you can look at other people. Like in your area, your school, you might be the best athlete, but in the state, you might not be. And so you get a chance to get exposed to other athletes and other coaches. That would be one. The other is know that as an athlete, we're always just one injury away from ending our athletic career. One injury away. It could come playing with your friends. It could come in a car. It could come a lot of different ways. And so, like one gentleman asked me, did I have a fallback plan? When I was your age, I did not have a fallback plan. Sports was my everything. But now that I'm older, I realize, I look back, I had a lot of friends that also played sports. I was the lucky one that got to college. Not everybody's going to be that lucky. And so you got to have a fallback plan. So my advice would be hit the books, find out what else you're passionate about. It could be music, it could be art, it could be literature, it could be you're a great writer, it could be speaking, it could be you build things great. Find out what those other things are and be serious about finding out, and then start to develop in those areas as well. Spend time doing those other things as well. So I have 3 young kids, and they're worried. They're not worried, but they're considering college. This week or next month, we're going to go to a camp up at Stanford, and the football coach has a camp. We're going to go for a 2-day camp. I want him to talk to other coaches, college coaches. So if you have a family member that can take you around to some of the other colleges and just want to walk in there and see what it's all like, that will help you dream big dreams. And that would be my advice to you and to all athletes is set your goals high. Don't limit your abilities. Set it, if you want to go to be a great college athlete, try to be specific. I want to be a Pac-10 athlete, or I want to play on a national championship team in college. And so, because you'll start to do the things, if that's your goal, you'll start researching colleges. Which teams are going to be the top teams when you're in your senior year and going to go to college. You want to know that stuff. And so maybe you will contact that college before that college contacts you, So just be proactive and take some control of your life and the different things that you can do to succeed. Thanks for that question.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. And let's go to Geneseo, New York. John Holt, if you get another question in your class.
Who are some of your role models growing up?
It's so funny. I am so much older than you. You won't know any of my role models, right? You won't know them. If I'm going to say them, you tell me. You ever heard of a guy named Muhammad Ali?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that was one of my role models. Now, the Muhammad Ali that I know is not the Muhammad Ali that you know. Muhammad Ali, the guy that I know, he challenged the system. He was a great athlete, but he challenged the system all the time. Another one was Bill Cosby, who you might know. But in sports, my role models were I'm a Laker fan, so Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Wilt Chamberlain, those kind of guys, those were my heroes. In baseball, I had them as well. But I'm so much older than you guys. I was surprised you even knew Muhammad Ali.
And for you young ones out there, the NBA logo, the guy dribbling the basketball, that's Jerry West. So that's the silhouette of him. So let's go ahead and go to Engville, California. You guys have a question?
Which football player do you like the most?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Which football player do you like the most?
When I was a kid or now?
Now.
Now? There are a lot that I like. There are an awful lot of great role models in the National Football League right now. Warwick Dunn, I don't know if you know who he is. And that's what when it comes to role models, I think those are personal things. But you guys are very fortunate because you have an awful lot of good NFL players or pro athletes to choose from that are doing a lot of good things, that do a lot of work in the community, working with kids and working with, handicapped people and people who are down on their luck. The NFL does a lot of work and working with players to help players that want to help in the communities where they live. So I give kudos to a lot of players, and the NFL every year has an award. It's called the Man of the Year Award. They give that award away to a player every year at the Super Bowl. If you guys want to Google NFL Man of the Year, it's actually the Walter Payton Award. And you probably don't know who Walter Payton is, but he's a guy that this award is named after that did an awful lot of work in the community. And it is the greatest honor that a current player can have is to receive that award. Now, I was nominated for it, but even in my time, there were a lot of guys doing a lot of good work, and I didn't get it. Somebody else got it that year.
Oh.
And I think there's something to be said to that. Mike brings up a good point of how many different individuals are doing so much good work in the community. A lot of times you see the media seems to just cover the negative elements. You saw them over the past couple of weeks or past month of various things that are taking place. But for every bad incident, I guarantee you there's 100 good incidents behind the scenes. We've got a guy coming in on Friday for one of our field trips here, Charlie Batch, who's a quarterback with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He has a foundation in Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh, his hometown, just outside of Pittsburgh, called Best of the Batch Foundation. There's so many players, and the teams have the community relations departments, so many great foundations and things that are out there. So, like I said, when you hear that bad moment, just think along with that there's 100 good moments as well that are going on behind the scenes. So thanks for bringing that up, Mike. Let's go ahead to Cinnamon School.
Okay, we have a question from Robbie.
Oh.
Robbie.
What?
Go ahead, Robbie.
Oh. Senior.
Did anyone ever ask you to do anything unethical?
Ever ask me what?
Unethical. See if that's correct.
Ask me. Did you say something about ethical?
Unethical.
Say it again.
Could you repeat your question? Stand up. Stand up.
Did anyone ever ask you to do anything unethical?
Unethical.
Oh, to do anything unethical? Absolutely. Yes. People have asked me to do things that were unethical, but I didn't do them. And that's important, I think, for you guys to know. I've been developing as a leader ever since I was your age. And you're going to find some people that are going to ask you to take shortcuts and to go along with something that you know isn't right. But hopefully you'll make the right decision when those situations come up. I'm learning an awful lot about ethics, and I realize that, sometimes it's really difficult to step up, and sometimes you're not, like you would like to think every time you made an ethical decision and you did the right thing, that there was a whole bunch of people there to tell you, hey, good job, you did the right thing. Awesome, kudos to you. But in reality, there's going to be plenty of times when you make these ethical decisions, and they're the right decisions, that there's nobody there. There could be 10 people on the other side making the wrong decision, and only you making the right decision, and there's not going to be anyone there to tell you, good job, kudos. You're going to have to know that inside that you're doing the right thing. And sometimes it's hard to do that. And I'm not going to tell you that making the ethical decision is something that's easy and that you should do it every time and it'll get easier and easier. It doesn't necessarily become easier. You might feel alone a lot of times when you have to make these ethical decisions. You saying no to something that you know you're right, you absolutely know that you're right to say no to, is the right decision, and your friends may not agree with you, but you just got to stick to your guns and feel comfortable with yourself, and in time it'll happen. So that's a very good question, and there's an awful lot of peer pressure, especially. It doesn't go away, by the way. I'm in my 50s now, and I still have peer pressure. I still have people wanting me to do certain things and criticizing me when I don't do the things that they want me to do or think I should do. But I have to feel comfortable in my own skin, and that comes from saying no and being able to deal with it, and it gets easier. But you may not get a lot of kudos for it. So I appreciate your question, and if you're dealing with the ethical decision right now, I wish you good luck with it.
Okay, wonderful question. Thank you, Cinnamon. Let's go to John Muir. If we got about a few minutes left. I'm going to try and get to one more question from Muir and one from Mountain Gap.
Go ahead.
What was one of the most amazing moments ever during a football game?
Probably the most amazing was playing in a Super Bowl, seeing one of my good friends run for a long touchdown Super Bowl record. It might not be a record anymore. It was a record at the time. But being part of a winning team where I did my part and all 53 or 63 other guys did their part, and we won a championship. That's as good as they can get in a sport, is to win a championship.
Okay, the pressure's on to Mountain Gap, Alabama. It's the fourth quarter. You're on the goal line. You got one last question. Let's make it a good one. Go ahead, Alabama.
What qualities do you look for in a good teammate?
Oh, good question. I think look for a person who wants to work hard to be the best he can be or she can be. That will help the teammates, your teammates, be the best they can be, and encourage each other when you're down, not to be so down. We can get better. If you're struggling with something, let me help you with that. Let me help you. If you don't want to run, you don't want to lift weights, you don't want to do the exercise, hey, I'll go with you. We're in this together. You don't have to do it by yourself. And I think that's probably the most important thing, because when you can get everybody on the same page and doing the same thing, you can win one of these. And this is a Super Bowl ring. This was my Super Bowl 18 ring. And I was very fortunate to play on a team where you don't put yourself number one. You put your teammates above yourself. And Janet's holding that ring up. It's really hard to see, that close, but it's a lot of diamonds. It is what every football player, every athlete really plays for. Yes, you play for the love of the game, but what makes the game fun is working on winning a championship. If you just want to go out there and play, you can do that. I don't want you on my team, though. If you just want to go play and have a good time, go play on somebody else's team. If you want to play and work at being better and helping me get better and helping each other get better, and we're all together working to have a championship team or the best football team that we can have, that's all I really want. I know that a team that is working to be the best that they can be may not be enough to win a championship, but I wouldn't want to play on a team that wasn't doing that. I wouldn't want to be part of a team that didn't want to be the best that they could be. I say, go play someplace else, or let me go someplace else. For me, it's about, finding those group of people who say, it's not about me, it's about us, and about us being the best we can be. So, and I think that probably, if I could speak for every Hall of Famer, that's probably that is the way that they feel too.
Thank you for the wonderful question. That's a great ending question there. You've heard Mike talk about some things that I've taken notes on as well. Preparation, practice, determination, taking challenges head on. These aren't just specific to his NFL career. They're specific to being a parent. They're specific to being the vice president of player development for the National Football League. They're specific to him being a vice president at Callaway Golf. And they're specific to any new endeavors at life, and challenges. His cancer diagnosis as well. These are all things that are specific to those. So with that being said, I just want to ask any closing remarks that Mike would like to have. I see we just have a minute or two left. Any closing remarks, Mike, that you'd like to share that we didn't touch on with today's group of young people?
The only thing I'd like to close with is if I could start my life over again, I wouldn't change a whole heck of a lot of it, except for the one part. And that is the way I viewed education. If I could go back to the 5th grade and start right there, because I think that's about the time that's when everything starts to make a difference. All your decisions, the things that you do, the people that you hang out with, the things that you do in your spare time, it really starts to make a difference. And I didn't have that. I didn't have that in my life. I did not value education. My parents were not encouraging me to be the best that I could be. They were encouraging me to get through school, get at least a C grade, and get out of high school and go get a job. I'm telling you guys what I tell my own kids. Do the best work that you can and learn all that you can and use the resources that you have. If you're having trouble, what I'm telling you is the same thing I tell NFL players. There is no difference. The problems and the challenges that you have, they do not go away. They don't go away. They can get easier because you've learned to take them on and deal with them over time. They get easier, but they're not going to go away. So I would have been a much better student. I did okay in my life, and I wonder how things might have been for me if I had the same athletic success, but I had a different academic success. I've done okay, and so I have no regrets. But if I could go back in time, I would take my education a lot more serious, and use those resources that are there.
That's great.
Well, let's have everybody mute your mics for a moment and join me in giving a round of applause to say thank you to Mr. Mike, Hall of Famer Mike Haynes, please.
You guys are great today.
We appreciate the wonderful questions you guys had, teachers. I appreciate your preparation. Again, thank you to Kings County. Thank you to Mike Haynes. Thank you to the hotel that Kings County's at. All the folks involved, the folks at E-Tech in Ohio and Columbus, Ohio, bridging everything. There's so many key players. We're like a football team here. We all had to work together for one common goal. And really, it is the case that we had to do that. So I want to say thank you to everyone. Teachers, hopefully we'll connect with you guys in the future. I encourage you guys to go visit our website at profootballhof.com. Go under education. We have all kinds of neat resources on there. Make sure you check out Kings County's website as well. So thank you everyone for joining in, and hopefully we'll see you guys again soon.